Let's talk.
Welcome to the opening show, the premiere, the platform, the premiere show of the End.formants. END period FORMANTS. You can find us on Facebook. Just so you know a little bit about the show is a joint effort with 1539 Productions, owned by me, Lisa Todd, and Niles East Productions, owned by Paula Rhodes, who is the co-founder of this show. Uh, we have a Facebook page where we ask people to comment on topics, and we actually take topics that they would like us to comment on. And we have rotating hosts that last about a month, and some might come back, some might not come back. It depends on what's going on in their life. Every post that we're reading comes from the End period formants wall. So anybody's name that we mention, we're responding to your post. We're telling people what it is that you're saying and what's important to you. It's our world. Let's talk about it. Welcome to End.formants. So, I'm Lisa Todd. I'm one of the co-founders of Informants, the talk show for regular people by regular people. And it's our world. We care about it. It's your world. Let's talk about it. So, the co-founder tonight, who's going to be a regular host, is Paula Rhodes. And Paula, how you doing tonight?
Great, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing good, Paula, and I got a good sound check, so that's great. And one of our rotating hosts this week is Brian Meadows. Brian, how we doing?
Pretty good. Ready to roll.
Good, good. All right, one of our other rotating hosts is Jenny Reed. Jenny, how we doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay.
Hey.
And you hear us loud and clear, right?
I sure do.
Okay, great. And then another rotating host we have this week is Tina Perna. How you doing, Tina?
How are you doing? I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So you could hear everybody, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start off, for those people that don't know, we did start a Facebook wall, and the Facebook wall has posts that have to deal with things that matter to people. So one of the first posts on the Facebook wall that I wanted to address, and I have it here, is death penalty, nay or yay. Now let me just tell you that Refi said nay to the death penalty because it costs the taxpayers a lot of money, and life in prison is probably worse. Besides, the death penalty has been found to kill people who have been found later with DNA to prove that they were innocent. So I'm going to start off with you, Tina. Tell me what you're feeling about the death penalty. Are you for it or against it?
I would have to say that I would be against it. As far as with the DNA, that does happen a lot. You know, they find later on that people are innocent, and that's not right. And sending it down for the rest of their life, that is a pretty good punishment as well.
Okay. Paula, I want you to also know that Lisa Newbold said she's all for the death penalty. What's your feeling on that?
Yay! I'm all for it. Actually, the death penalty, here's my take, Lisa. We spend tons of money on these vile creatures of society that have murdered and raped, and they're getting free hots and a cot, working out in a gym, and they're getting college educations and living a better life than a lot of poor Americans on our tax dollar. So I understand and I agree that, you know, there are cases where, you know, innocent people are found to be found later because of DNA testing. But here's my take. I say let's change the prison system altogether and make it prison, like they do in other countries. Let's really, you know, take the prisons and make them, you know, a venue of punishment. Send them to an island where they have to fend for themselves. Not, you know, an upscale resort where they're getting college educations, gym memberships, meals, and free room and board. I'm sorry, that to me is an incentive. There was an actual case where a man robbed a bank for $1 so he could go to prison because he didn't have health insurance. and he wanted to go to prison so he could get health insurance. I mean, that just says it all. So I'm actually for, the death penalty is almost a cop out because once they're dead, they're not suffering anymore. You kill somebody, you rape somebody, I think they should suffer, don't you?
Well, actually, I do agree, and I did work in the jail systems. I think you guys know, and they did refer to where I worked as a Marriott with the name of the county attached to it, which I don't think I should mention, but that they did call it that. And I saw that, in fact, yeah, that the victims were treated better than I'm sorry, that the perpetrators were treated better than the victims. Jenny, what do you think about it? What do you think about the death penalty?
Well, it's a really complicated issue for me. I mean, on one hand, I am really, really in favor of making sure that the person who gets punished is the correct person. And to me, if there is any doubt whatsoever, the death penalty should be totally off the table. But if we're absolutely 110% sure who it is, then my first thought is well, if we're sure that it's him, and if the death penalty is the correct penalty for the situation, that's great. It gets them completely gone. There's no chance of them escaping or getting parole or whatever. That's a good thing. On the other hand, I'm hearing Paula saying that maybe the death penalty is actually a cop out. Maybe they really should suffer, and that's a really good point. And that the Raffi person who typed in that the death penalty actually costs more money than keeping them alive, that's kind of a good point too. So I'm really kind of waffling.
Yeah, she was. Just so you know, Jenny, Reffy was just talking about the appeal process and how expensive that was.
And that's a very good point. I mean, one thing we could do is make the appeal process cheaper somehow, but I don't have any ideas on how one could possibly do that. So taking that into account, that's really a good argument against the death penalty.
Okay. Okay, so Brian, I know you're ready to weigh in. I know you're ready to weigh in. Talk about it. What do you think?
I think maybe with some exceptions, but basically I will stand with Reffy and Tina insofar as Reffy's right about the appeal system. All that costs substantially more than life imprisonment would. If we want to make our prisons more like, at least for violent criminals, more like French prisons, I don't have too much to say against it. Although, I kind of think those white-collar criminals on Wall Street and in the big banks, who so far haven't even received a slap on the wrist, hardly, I think I would like to see them in prisons like Cherche Midi or Les Beaumets. I mean, there might be some emotional satisfaction from either seeing them do the air dance or have their heads rolled, but basically, yeah, life imprisonment and Cherche Midi ought to do the trick.
Okay, all right, thanks a lot. Paulie, you had something to add. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Okay, what I'd like to say is, why don't we make a deal with Turkey and we'll send our prisoners there. If anybody's ever watched Midnight Express, I think that might be a deterrent.
Yeah, I agree.
Prisoner swap program.
We could also buy Devil's Island from the French.
I think that's a good idea, Brian, too. Yeah, none of the Devil's Island and the Turkish prayer. The same with the one that was in the movie Midnight Express.
Anybody here see Papillon?
Okay.
Right, Papillon, absolutely, great movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's go on because we only have an hour, and I know that we're going to have something at the end with the politics. I want to continue on with the posts if we can. Your opinions on Lance Armstrong. So let me tell you, Reffy had an opinion, and we thank Reffy. Reffy said if Lance Armstrong did use drugs and it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, he should turn in his medals money received from winning the Tour de France, and be banned from any future competition. I'm sure he will deny what the doping committees have said. Keith Cameron said he's a national embarrassment, and Dan Y. Goldfeder said, a good human being and a survivor who helped people with cancer. I would have to say he has helped people with cancer. I would hope that that's the case, because I'm sure that they're going to check into those monies. Sabrina Hayes said he's a disgrace and so hurtful to all the clean competitors out there. Brian Buddha said, cheating doper, invaluable cancer fighter, the first man to ride a bicycle on the moon. Lisa Newbold responded, sucks that he doped, disgraced him and tarnished his legacy, but has raised a buttload of money for cancer. We all make mistakes, unfortunately. His was really, really public. Let me start with you, Paula. What do you think about the doping bit? Because it seems to me that there's been evidence, and he has been told that he's going to have to return some money, and he was his medals were taken away. But what's your feelings about this?
I think he's a disgrace, Lisa. I'm sorry that he suffered with cancer, and I think I know people make mistakes, but when you're in the public spotlight like that, you're really held to another standard. You really are. I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. You're become rich, and with that becomes added responsibility. And there are so many athletes that have beaten cancer and have maintained their sport with integrity, and he hasn't done so. And I'll tell you, I was an athlete, and I guess that really makes this so offensive to me. And yeah, I just think that, look, what he did is now he's publicly embarrassed, and I think he deserves it, and definitely needs to be stripped of all his accolades. Definitely.
Okay, Brian, you're ready to pop in.
I think so. I've been listening pretty closely, because my opinion on Lance Armstrong is still, how shall we put it, not gelled as yet, but this much I will say. That he did dope is a disgrace, and it does sort of slap the honest competitors in the face, too, which I'm very strong against not slapping. I'm strong against slapping honest competitors here in the face, either in sports or in the economy as well. And indeed, I don't see how, essentially, Lance Armstrong is any less guilty than the people I mentioned last question, albeit concerning different matters. On the other hand, he did make something good of his own illness, his own cancer.
Okay.
I think, though, there ought to be a heavy penalty against him, and he's already had to forfeit his medals. And I think I would say I would probably make him return 50% of what he got from the endorsements and whatnot, at least 50%.
Okay.
As for the rest of it, I think, if he can still raise money for cancer, fine.
Right. His credibility is definitely going to be in check now, as we know, and I'm sure that the monies are going to be checked to make sure. Because the truth of the matter, in my opinion, and I will hit Jenny, and I will hit Tina, is that you doped, you lied. So that gives you a gray area where, you know what, now your money needs to be checked, because supposedly you were getting money for cancer. Jenny, talk to us about Lance Armstrong and what's your feelings, please.
Well, one thing I'm sure you would never guess about me, at least, not looking at my body now, I was trying really, really hard to make it to the 1988 Olympics. I was training really hard. Now, frankly, I wasn't good enough. I didn't make it. That's why you never saw me on the Olympics. I wasn't there. But I tried. And, I didn't use any sort of enhancements. It wouldn't have been fair, and I would have been pissed off if one of my competitors had used enhancement, and that was the reason they were better than me. Now, I believe all my competitors were better than me because they were better than me. But, you know, I would have really been pissed off if they had cheated. And so that's exactly what I feel about Lance. Now, keeping in mind that as a human being, that's a totally different issue. I don't say that, you know, he's a horrible person who is worth nothing, because, you know, he's a human being. He made a mistake. But as an athlete, I am very, very much against that. That just makes me very angry.
It's cheating. Actually, as we know, it's cheating. Okay, so let me hit on Tina. Tina, your opinion on Lance Armstrong. What do you think he should do? I mean, is he a doper? Isn't he a doper? What do you think?
Well, I think, like Brian said, well, as long as his medals are, I don't believe he should have his medals. That there have been many athletes where they've lost their medals for those same reasons. But also, like Brian said, with that he feels he should give back at least 50% of the money. Maybe he should take that money and donate it to cancer research.
Yeah,
that's a good idea, Tina. So the next topic, real quick, the post was, do you think people are born without a conscience? Can everyone be fixed with therapy, or do some people just have not have a workable conscience? Here's what Refi said: yes, no, and yes, in that order. And Lisa Newbold said no. I mean what Refi said: yes, no, or yes. So apparently, according to those two followers, they do think that people can be born without a conscience. They don't think everybody can be fixed, and they do think that some people just don't have a workable conscience. Now, when I raised this topic, basically, obviously, I was thinking along the lines of somebody that could murder or hurt somebody and go to sleep soundly each night. So this time I'm going to start off with Jenny. What do you think, Jenny?
Wow. I guess me first. Okay. Basically, I think yes. Some people really do have no conscience. I don't know why that could possibly be, but I've seen it. They just don't have one. And yeah, I honestly think that it must be somehow inborn in them. I mean, most of the time anyway. It's possible for you to get your conscience beaten out of you by a lousy life, and if that's the case, well, you know, maybe you could be fixed with a lot of therapy if you wanted to be fixed. But I think that some people, they're just born that way, and you know, if they don't have a conscience, there's nothing you can do. The best you can do is try and teach them how they should behave, but if they don't have a conscience, they only care if there's consequences to them.
I agree with that. And Tina, what's your feeling about that? Do you think people are actually born without a working conscience? Can they be fixed? Do you think that those people can be fixed?
No, I don't. And I have had a recent personal experience with a burglary. These people, I do know who they are.
Okay.
They know me, and they have been in prison before. I don't know them in a friendly manner. I know who they are.
We didn't think you associated with those people, Tina.
Right, no. But these people, they know that I know. They have just waved to me on the street like I'm supposed to say, hello, how are you today? And thank you for breaking into my home.
Huh.
So these people, they have not learned from their experiences. It hasn't been the first time they've been in prison. And I'm not talking jail, I'm talking prison. And I don't think that they'll ever change. So I believe there are people who do not have a conscience, who are born without one, and who cannot be helped.
Okay. Brian, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to go to Paul at the end. What's your feeling about the working conscience?
Well, let's see. I'd be willing to bet there are some people who are born without conscience. Part of the problem is, or will be perhaps, telling them apart from those who have had conscience beaten from them. And we usually think of psycho rapists or killers when this is mentioned. May I suggest that we also think of, and I'd like to put this to everybody too, is it worse to lose no sleep over killing one person, or to lose no sleep over being the agent of ruin for millions, or of famine for tens of millions? Which is worse? Because I've read reports that Wall Street and the big banks may have an alarmingly high number of well-trained sociopaths among their ranks. So I would kind of agree with Refi with the asterisk that we need to tell one from the other. That is to say, those who have lost conscience and those who never had it. And no, not everybody can be fixed with any amount of therapy. The idea of people born without conscience sort of leads to the second answer. And what was the third part of the question? I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, I just need to let you know that it was Jenny that said the beaten out of you bit. It wasn't Ruffy. It was Jenny that said that. And I
borrowed from her.
No. I just want to be clear that Jenny had brought that topic up. The third bit of that question was, I'm sorry, Ruffy. I'm sorry that I forgot it, but was well, you answered it. It was basically a repeat of, do you think people are just born without a workable conscience?
Question is, once we find such people, what should we do with them? Maybe we should send them to Devil's Island?
I don't know, but that could be another topic on another week. Let me hit Paula up and see how Paula feels. Paula, what's your feeling about that? Do people have workable conscience, or people are born without a workable conscience? Can it be fixed?
We live in a sociopathic world. We've become more sociopathic as generations pass, unfortunately. But you have your sociopaths like friend X. I have a friend who I no longer speak to, who I believe is a sociopath. Very self-centered. Actually, I know a couple people like that. They usually date them, but anyhow, you're not alone there, Paul. I have a tendency to be a magnet for sociopaths. I don't know why, but anyhow, they're really good looking. I guess I overlook it, but unless I find a head in the refrigerator, of course. That was a joke. But a toe I might not mind so much, but a head. Anyhow, I think that there are people that are beyond health that are born without a conscience, and I think that those people, like the Ted Bundys or the Jeffrey Dahmers or the John Wayne Gacys or the Adolf Hitlers, they're the monsters of society. But I think there's a lot of sociopaths walking around that we know and we talk to every day, and they're not wired like I guess we are, or the norm, or maybe they are becoming the norm these days. And those people can't be helped because they don't feel. So, but the funny thing is sociopaths don't think they need help. They think they're perfect. And I'll tell you, that's a telltale sign. If you have somebody in your life who's never wrong, run, Forrest, run.
Can I say something?
Because they'll drain you, and they're sociopaths.
Yeah, Brian's got go ahead, Brian. You had something that you wanted to add.
I just want to take a little bit of issue with it being a sociopathic world. I heard something recently that of the bones that have been found of our prehistoric ancestors, 1/6 of them, about 15% or so, have signs of being done in by another hominid, by a fellow human.
Probably an ancestor of my ex.
That's what I'm getting to is the death and violence rate has, with some intervals during the time of civilization, steadily gone down. Even during World War II, the death rate was only 3 to 5% of the human race. I mean, that is to say, the killing rate was only that. And it is continuing to go down. I think, though, as the world gets smaller, we just hear more about sociopaths and such like, which, of course, colors our perception.
Okay, I'd like to add something, even though I'm the moderator here, but you know, I believe this. I believe that we kind of have an attitude that we live in a disposable society, and I think that we're a big part of that. However, should I hurt somebody, I tend to notice that, and I go back and say, you know, wait a minute, I'm sorry. But if I was hiding bodies in my refrigerator, it's doubtful that I would go to sleep at night, you know, sound. So, you know,
I hope not.
yeah, I mean, right.
Especially if the bodies were alive, that might keep you awake, you know. It might be a little noisy in that refrigerator.
Sounds like zombie whoop.
Let us out, let us out, let us out.
Look, I'm too close to the ketchup. Move me. Move me.
Hey, zombie too.
All right, so let's go on to the next post here. One of the posts says, if you could undo or change one moment of world history, what would it be and how would you change it? And here, Reffy, she says, I don't know how I could change this. Hitler should have been aborted. Then we have Josie, and Josie says, I was going to say I would have stopped Hitler's conception. Great minds think alike, laugh out loud. Brian Buddha said, aborting Hitler or killing him as a baby is no better than what he did. You want to change history by changing one moment. Make sure Hitler didn't get the assignment to spy on the fledgling National Socialist Party while in the army. Had he not gone to that meeting, Hitler would not have been introduced and influenced by a less than minor group of I'm sorry, I can't read the word, of bad, yeah, I think so. I should have made this bigger, I apologize. And Ruffy said, Brian, I beg to differ with you, Hitler. I mean, 1 man, 6 million Jews, big difference. Lisa Newbold wrote, maybe getting Hitler counseling as a child so he didn't become the monster he became, or just that his art was appreciated so he would never be taken as, he would have never taken, wait a minute, so that he never took the dictator role. So Paula, you have something very strong to say here. I mean,
well, definitely. I mean, Hitler is top on my list, of course. I lost family in the Holocaust, and they should have just let the dude into art school. You know, he could have, you know, done some really messed up, crazy looking, you know, surreal paintings, and you know, been done with it. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. But I think that if I could change something in history, I don't know. I think I'd go back quite further to possibly the birth of Ishmael and what happened with that. Because when you think about what's happening now, what's been happening since time immemorial between two brothers, Ishmael and Isaac, and, you know, I think that I would have gone back in time and found, you know, some different way of what happened, because that has sparked, you know, fighting for forever. But, you know, as far as modern history, definitely, I like what Rex said about aborting Hitler, or, you know, making sure that he never rose to prominence. But you know what? That begs the question, if Hitler, you know, would there have been another Hitler? Because Germany was ripe for finding somebody because of the you know, the state of their economy and how, you know, they were in such despair after they were hobbled after World War I. You know, would there have been another creature, maniac, that would have, you know, risen to power and been another Hitler? Was Adolf Hitler just a symptom? So, you know, that begs the question. So I don't know, we could have aborted, you know, thousands of Hitlers, and there might have been another one waiting in the trenches. You never know.
Okay. Jenny, I'm going to go. Wait a minute, guys. I want it. Well, hang on.